Hello, here you find us at the Orwell Hotel in Felixstowe, and it's the 4th Felixstowe Book Festival. And I've got two authors, would you believe? One you wouldn't perhaps believe is an author, but he is. And the other has an international reputation, I think, second to none. Is that right?
Well, who am I to disagree?
Would you like to introduce yourselves to the viewer?
I'm Fraser Sampson. I've written about 14 books. A lot of them are rather boring books on finance and investment and economics, but in terms of fiction, this is what we're here to talk about. This is Death in Profile, which is the first volume of the Hampstead Murders, contemporary crime stories, but written in the style and spirit of the Golden Age. And I'm also known for my Map and Lucia books, which have been optioned by BBC Television.
And all of these, we would hope, will continue to be available, hopefully some signed, in Stillwater Books and Hamilton Road in the forthcoming weeks.
Indeed.
And then, on my left, we have
Hugh Fraser, mostly an actor, and now recently...
You look awfully like Captain Hastings, but perhaps
Really?
I think so. Well, we don't know, but you look very much like him.
Oh, yes.
That guy.
Yes, I think I played that part.
You could
Yes,
have,
yes,
but
yeah,
you
I
do
did.
get forgetful, don't you? I mean,
Well, you know.
as age comes on, it tends to happen. So your first book was,
Harm,
and it's followed by.
Threat.
And I could afford to buy this one, which I have, so I need it signed before you leave, if you would be so kind.
Sure.
And would you like to sort of say how you got into writing, being such a successful actor?
Well, I about 20 years ago, I've always sort of kind of dabbled in writing. I wrote a couple of plays, one of which got optioned by management, but it didn't quite go on. It was almost going to go on, and it didn't. So I thought I'd try to write prose, try to write a book, and I took a short story writing course with Guardian UEA, which I enjoyed very much, and that gave me a kind of deadlines to work to. Each week you had to come up with a short story. And towards the end of the course, I showed the beginnings of this book, Harm, to the course tutor, the novelist Bernardine Evaristo, and she was very encouraging to me and said, give it a go, it looks as though it might work, and I did, and then just got to the end of it, and that was it.
Great. Now, you're very fortunate in that we recorded the whole presentation that both authors gave to a very enthusiastic and packed audience here in the Hotel Orwell. And really what we wanted to do was to pick up on some additional things that didn't get covered in that particular conversation. So if you want a bigger, longer conversation, it will be available on FTV, as in when Ness, who's behind the camera, gets it all edited and done. So can I start on my right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I've never been able to get on, because that went on to Radio 4 did a series of plays.
No, it was featured on Radio 4 by Mariella Fostrop on her book.
Was that what it was?
That's what it was, yes.
Right.
There were some adaptations on Radio 4, I think by Ned Sherrin, of the original Map and Lucia book.
Yes.
Well, that's probably what you're thinking of.
But they were put on as a series of plays.
Yes.
I had a feeling it was sort of an afternoon for a number of whatever. And I've never been able to get into it. I don't know why. Perhaps because I'm a Devonian and lived on the edge of Dartmoor and can't really equate to sort of Eastbourne, Brighton, that coast, though I've lived there.
It's very much of its place, and
It
it's
is.
very much of its time, I think. That's the other thing. It's very much between the wars. It's incidentally, these books were absolutely contemporary with Jeeves and Wooster.
Yes.
And
yes.
at the time,
you can feel it, can't you?
the time, believe it or not, the Map and Lucia books were even more popular than Jeeves and Wooster.
Were they?
But yes, but in more recent years they've really sort of headed in opposite directions.
Okay. Now you've switched into death, murder, and mayhem.
Yes.
Big time.
Yes.
It would appear. And from what you said, you've got a series of these planned out into the future.
Yes.
So, but it's a team of detectives.
It's a
isn't
team
it?
of detectives. It's
So-
very different to the sort of detective books that we buy in the shops these days, which tend to have a single detective and often a rather damaged character, maybe with an alcohol problem or a drugs problem and a broken marriage and whatever it may be, mental health issues. I've really broken with that. I've gone back to the Golden Age tradition. It's a team of detectives. They are police detectives, so they're not gentlemen detectives, although there is one nod to the Golden Age. There is a gentleman detective who gets drawn into the case, who's not a police officer. And so far as I've been able to do, they are likeable characters. You care about what happens to them, and it will be a genuine series with the story and their lives developing from one book to the next.
Okay. So when you write, do you sort of write visually?
Do I imagine the scene taking place? Yes, very much so.
So
yes.
It's,
particularly with dialogue, particularly
yes,
a conversation.
You can sort of see the talking
yes.
heads giving it some welly.
Yes.
That sounds great. That one I've yet to buy or read, so I can't really meaningfully make any contribution. But when you come back next year, I will have read them all, and then we can have a
If I'm
proper
invited
chat.
next year, I'll be delighted to come back.
Well, you never know. I mean, Felixstowe, anything could happen. I mean, perhaps because it's a port, you may well find that we've got barriers erected and nobody's allowed to come in or out without a passport.
It's possible.
So it could happen. It
A
did happen
Felixstowe
in
free zone.
Well, in
Checkpoint
World War II,
Felixstowe.
our checkpoint was up at Walton. This was a military
Yes.
town. You couldn't get in or out. It was that close to the end, I'm told. Let's come to yours. Harm and threat. Now, you've decided to go for a female assassin who's quite damaged.
Yes.
How do you get into that role in your head? I mean,
Well, it just kind of happened, really. I started writing the description of the hotel in Mexico, the first, well, the two strands of the book. We meet her in 1974 in Mexico, when
Right.
she's in her early 30s, on an assignment. She's a contract killer. And then we flash back to her childhood in the slums of Notting Hill in 1956, where she's 15 years old.
which was a rough time.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I was just writing the description of the hotel atrium foyer in Mexico, and she just kind of walked in.
Did she?
Yes.
She just came in your imagination.
Yes, exactly.
So, when you're writing, do you just follow your imagination?
Yes, I do. I write completely instinctively. I don't plan anything. I mean, there are moments later on in both books where I sit down and think, hang on, what are we doing here? We've got this, and this. How is this going to kind of, and I'll do a bit of planning, but then I'll move on the plan and then divert from the plan again. And so it's really a sort of hand to mouth.
So it sounds
process.
almost like a man shed. In that what you start off with, you use whatever you've got and you
Yes.
create one.
That's
I don't
right,
know whether
yes,
you've
it's
seen
just-
it. It's
to
organic and
yeah,
it grows.
exactly.
And
Organic is the
whatever.
word, yes.
So, do you feel that this particular character is going to be sustainable for your, let's be cheerful about this, for your writing life?
Well,
Because she sounds as if she could well grow on you as a reader.
I would hope so.
Yes.
And I'm certainly planning a follow-on to these two, a third book.
Good. So you're both going to be really gainfully and very active. And you were saying you're quite disciplined. You're
Well, yes.
sort of the morning you go at it.
I go.
and then go and think about
set
it.
hours, 9 to 1 o'clock.
Right.
And I do. Yes, I try to stay.
So do you do something similar?
Very similar. I'm also a morning person. If I can, I like writing immediately after I've been to the gym. I find that
Gym?
That seems to be a particularly good time for me.
Right. Okay. Fine.
I don't go to the gym every day, I hasten to add.
No.
But no, I'm a morning person, and I tend to write in sort of 1.5 to 2 hour bursts.
Okay. Fine. Just one final thing, and it wouldn't be fair if we didn't have one word on that superb, brilliant television series.
What was it?
I can't remember. But you played a captain, I think.
Yes.
Can you explain to me why you and David didn't decide to go, not necessarily in character, but to go on the Orient Express together?
Well,
Because I know David did it and it was great, but the pair of you together, it would have been a road story for two guys who knew each other very well. It would have been a much stronger presentation, I think.
Well, I think there was.
Were you asked?
No. I think there was a definite intention to remain true to the books.
Right.
Although they did divert in
They did a
various
bit,
ways. But I think that was probably a decision by the producers to stay with the original book rather than
Right.
adding characters that weren't there in the first place.
And a final plug, which I need to make because I'm a Devonian. Have you been, or do you intend to, or are you going to go to Agatha Christie's museum in Torquay in Devon? Because it's now open and apparently
Really?
it's a great experience.
Yeah, well, I'd like to go, definitely.
So, to the owners of that's particularly that museum in Devon, extend an invitation,
Sure.
shouldn't they? And you were going to say
I'm
something.
just going to say, on a Devonian point,
Right.
the next of the Hampstead murders is actually called Miss Christie Regrets, and it features Agatha Christie as a real-life character.
You see, it gets in occasionally. Anyway, thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you both for making the journey to the, well, it's the east of our country. It's as far, nearly, Lowestoft slightly further east, but we consider ourselves the eastern front of the United Kingdom that currently is at war with itself. So on that happy note, goodbye and thank you for watching.